So if you're looking to invest in the coastal Maryland and Delaware area, particularly in a vacation or second home investment, I've got a good one for you. I'm bringing on Craig Snyder with Luminate Bank, an expert in second home and vacation home financing. And we're going to talk about a particular loan product that's helped many people called the DSCR loan, where they look at more of the asset and the property you're buying and less on your personal income. This is a good one if you're looking to build your portfolio or even if it's your first time purchasing one. So what's going on, everybody? This is Rich, your local coastal Maryland and Delaware realtor. I appreciate you tuning in, and I get people that reach out all the time and I love it. I'm gonna put my contact information down below, so don't be shy, reach out. Whether it's you're looking to do something now or even if it's a year down the road, never too early. And plus I'm gonna have Craig's information down below too, so that's a good person that you wanna talk with and connect with on there. So without further ado, let's hop into the video.
Hey Rich, thanks for having me on your show today. And my name is Craig Snyder from Luminate Bank. I'm here to talk to, Rich has asked me to talk about these DSCR loans for investors to help you buy some investment properties down at the beach. What a DSCR loan is a debt service coverage ratio. And what that means is that you don't have to qualify on your own to be able to buy the property. So, everybody reads and hears about the great investments and wants to be down at the beach. As we all know, it's beautiful, lovely. As you can see behind me,
Yes.
the Assawoman Bay or the Sinnapuxon Bay. I'm not sure which side of the street it's on.
Got a picture from your condo?
It is.
Okay, awesome.
So what this allows everybody to do is if you want, or if you want to get into investing, these programs allow for first-time investors and for seasoned investors. Basically what happens is we find a house or a condo and you say it's $250,000 for a two-bedroom or a one-bedroom condo, and that's going to generate X number of rent. Well, that rent has to cover your mortgage payment. We don't really care about the individual that's behind the loan. These are truly business loans, to be technical. So the property qualifies on its own. And this is very similar to how the big commercial guys do this. I mean, it's kind of taken from the commercial world of how do you buy an apartment complex, because obviously, two people buy an apartment complex for millions of dollars probably don't have income to support the payments.
Right.
So they kind of dumbed it all the way down for an individual basis to say, how do you or I or any of your listeners come and say, how do I buy this? And, I found this great deal and it makes money and I'd like to buy it. With that, typically it's around 20% down, depending upon your credit scores.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at it, and what we do is we get the rental with an appraisal of how much it would rent for. Obviously, year-round rentals, especially in some place like Ocean City, are very low.
Mm-hmm.
We use the shorter term summer rentals, the weekly basis, or we can pull things from like Airbnb and VRBO and add in those weekly rentals to get the numbers up. Because I'm guessing if we took a two-bedroom and we rented it year-round, we might get, $20,000 a year if
Mm-hmm.
somebody was there.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody might be able to generate 30,000 just over the summer months.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that would help them qualify for that.
Yeah. Which that kind of makes sense, especially with when you were talking like short-term rentals, vacation rentals in a resort area like Ocean City or, coastal Maryland, coastal Delaware. It's like a hybrid, almost like a gray area. It's like residential real estate, but really it's kind of almost like a commercial real estate. It's right there in the middle there.
Right.
A lot of people are using it themselves, but probably 99% of the people that I help and work with, they want to use it maybe 1 week, 2 weeks out of the year, then rent it for the rest, at least maybe break even or, cover the taxes, condo fee, or whatever it may be.
No, absolutely. And that's why this is great. So there's a ratio that it has to be, the rent to cover that.
Okay.
I do have a program that I've helped people use down in Florida where it's even trickier sometimes. Where if you
Sure.
put 30% down, you don't really care about the ratio.
Okay.
If somebody's got enough cash and they say, hey, we love this place and it's $700,000 and we want to technically use it, for a couple weeks during the summer to be our beach house and think about the appreciation in it, but it really doesn't generate enough income and they can support it. I mean, I'm not going to suggest anybody buying things you can't afford
Right.
to lose, but you say, hey, I just, we can afford it, but we can't afford all of it.
Right.
You can put 30% down and we can kind of put that package together for you. There's a lot of options in these debt service coverage loans, the DSCR. We can use them for refinances.
Okay.
Somebody's got another rental property someplace and it's making money. We don't really need to look at your tax returns. We don't ask for them.
Okay.
You can pull money out so they can use it to invest, right? Because it's leverage. That's how most people grow their rental portfolios
Hmm.
by, buying them, building up equity, and then taking the equity and using it to buy another one. These are great for anybody. You can be W-2 employees, 1099 employees, self-employed, because we don't ask. We don't look at your tax returns. I
No
have a
bank
situation
statements.
where I have a person that's in a cash business and hasn't filed tax returns in a long time.
Okay.
And this is what we're doing.
Okay.
We don't ask. He told me that he didn't do it. I'm like, I don't want to really know that. No,
Yeah.
that's
So no bank statements, no
no
nothing.
bank
Just
statements,
look at
nothing.
the
Well,
asset.
we have to show bank statements for assets,
Okay. Okay.
but that's all we care. We don't look at your bank statement to see how much income you have because you're not qualifying. The property is qualifying on its own.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
But we do have bank statement programs for people that are in a heavy cash flow type of business where they have a lot, they write off a lot because they're allowed to legally.
Right.
So we can use the bank statements to generate income.
Yeah.
We also have programs where we can just take the 1099, like yourself as a real estate agent. You get paid 1099 with all of your commissions, but you write off your YouTube channel, all the things, your car, all these expenses.
Right.
But I can take as a real estate agent, you look at your 1099, deduct 10% for expenses, and that's the income I get to give you credit for, which is great. IT guys are the same way, consultants
Yeah.
do a lot of that. We don't have to get into your travel and those types of things. We can do all these loans as either cash out refinances as well, or some of these I can even do seconds on some of your investment properties or your primary if somebody needs cash, buy down on the front side.
Yeah. And is there like any requirements like would you have to have like an LLC
No, you
or
can. You
okay.
can close in the name of an LLC,
Yep.
but you're still gonna be ultimately responsible for the property, and you're signing as the guarantor,
Gotcha.
which means, yeah, I can call it Rich and Craig's LLC,
Hmm.
but if the payments don't get made, they're coming to Rich and Craig.
Right. Okay. So they still tag it to your personal
They'll tag to your personal,
if you
they're
don't
going to
pay.
use your social security number, but you can close in the name of an LLC.
Okay.
A lot of people want to do from a liability standpoint. Attorneys and accountants will tell you, oh, create an LLC. There are benefits from a tax standpoint.
Hmm.
There are some limited liability issues that from an insurance and liability standpoint of having it that way. But we're not attorneys, we're not accountants.
Right.
Talk to them about that, and it's really your choice. There's no cost difference to do that.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit more, like you mentioned that you can do a second on an existing investment property, or can you do like a cash out refinance off of
Do
that?
cash out refinance a second. So the
Um,
seconds are really
Question I was going
popular.
to ask you, like, I guess where, let's say somebody has an investment property and the interest rate is pretty good right
Right,
now because they refinanced back in 2021, whenever that was, and they want to pull money out of the equity they had with that home to put it into
right.
something else.
And
How,
that's why the seconds are great, right? Because the
yeah,
seconds are higher, but you don't want to refinance and pull cash out if you have a 3.5%
right,
fixed rate to seven,
yeah,
because now you're really killing the deal. But let's say we need 50, 60, $70,000
hmm,
and we can throw it on a second mortgage. Yeah, it might be higher at 8 or 9%, but it's still coming out and that's all you're paying on that.
sure,
Right? We can
yeah,
do a 30-year second mortgage as well to spread it out.
right, yeah, that makes
Um,
sense,
Second home's investment and your primary obviously gets better, but a lot of people do have equity in their investment properties
right.
and don't want to get to it because, like you said, I mean, why would you touch something at 3.5% or 4% when you can't get anywhere close to it?
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's always a challenge, especially somebody, like I said, has a good rate. A lot of regular loans, obviously, won't let you like a HELOC or something like that on like an investment property. But I guess you can
We can
do.
do HELOCs or HELoans.
Okay, you can.
So the loan is a fixed rate. The HELOC adjusts every month with prime, plus or minus
Right.
in there. So depending on how long you think you're going to keep the loan, kind of looks at that. The other thing that we tell everybody too, Rich, today, right? And you do too, is the loan is temporary. Right? All loans are temporary. You
Yeah.
can change them at any time. For most part, there's no prepayment penalties. If they are, they're a short period of time, not on the seconds.
Right.
Some of these DSCR loans, there's a 2 or 3 year prepayment, or you can buy them out
Hmm.
little bit higher interest rate. So if rates do come down in the uncertain world that we're in today, you can always refinance.
Right.
You and I have had this conversation a million times that if rates come down and when they come down, 1% could add 5 million people to the marketplace. So what's going to happen is prices are going to go up. Now, even though we're still in a multiple offer situation here in Maryland and Delaware along the beaches,
Mm-hmm.
with limited inventory, now you're going to have even more people wanting to bid at the house,
Right.
which is going to drive it up. So, I kind of say buy today if you like it and it works. You always
Mm-hmm.
have the chance to refinance it. And the longer you own it, the better off you're going to be. It's going to appreciate.
Right.
I have a buddy that bought an investment property up here in northern Delaware 17 years ago,
Right.
height of the market,
Yeah.
never made any money on it.
Mm-hmm.
Getting ready to sell it. They're finally going to make some money. He's like, I've never been able to take a penny out of it, but it finally appreciated $120,000.
Yeah.
So, I kind of sent him a note back. I'm like, that was a great investment.
Yeah.
He's like, why? I said, well, you didn't pay anything,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
you get $120,000 and you never made a payment.
Yeah.
So, timing, if you can make it through real estate in time,
Mm-hmm.
time is your friend, right? I mean, it's always to appreciate, and that's where all the wealth is made. If you look at other before the tech boom, all the wealth was in real estate.
Right.
And so it's recession proof. I was having these conversations with accountants and financial planners for customers, especially in these uncertain times. I mean, rental real estate is really a good place because rents are going to go up,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a beach rental or whether it's back on the western side of Ocean City where maybe you want a year-round rental,
Right.
for people that's a little bit more affordable, a little less turbulent. All these programs work for any of those situations and anywhere in our place. And just like Maryland, Delaware, anywhere that you want, Rich is the guy. I
Mm-hmm.
can help you to figure this out.
Absolutely. That all sounds good. But I think you're right on that. The one thing with real estate, it takes time, but it's proven that it has appreciated, over times, even through the few dips that it have. And, I always mention the one of the investments that I have, which actually it was my primary home that me and my sister purchased back in 2006. So we got a good deal on it at the time, but we all know what happened in late 2007, 2008. I probably lost probably 30% in the value on that home. So I had negative equity at the time, but I was able, my sister got married, I moved on, something else. I started to rent the property. I was able to maintain it, and of course today I have, a good amount of equity in it. And I'm glad that I kept it and I'm glad that I bought it back then, even though at the time when all that was going on in 2008, you're like, man.
No,
But
you're absolutely right. And I've been investing for 25 years,
yeah,
30 years. I've got properties that are that old. I grew up in a family that was in real estate investment.
right.
It's just like a stock market, right? The only time you lose money is when you sell it.
Yeah.
And as long as you are diligent and fiscally responsible and not put yourself in a position where you would have to sell in a downturn, just like in the stock market,
Right.
right, it's going to come back.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And remember that somebody's helping you in the investment world make those mortgage payments
Mm-hmm.
all along, right? So, I used to sell new construction 30 years ago, and I used to tell my customers, you buy a house for $150,000, you live in it for 30 years, you sell it for $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, that didn't work. I said, you just made a fortune,
Yeah.
right? Because this is a primary residence.
Yeah.
You're getting $150,000 back. You didn't pay $300,000 in rent.
Mm-hmm.
You had tax benefits.
Right.
Where is that a bad forced savings situation? And then in the
Yep.
investment world, it's even better because you get extra tax deductions. Somebody else is paying that mortgage for you and you have the value of the property.
Right.
And, if you keep up with inflation, rents go up. I mean, rents stay stagnant for a long time when we had stagflation, but, since COVID, everybody heard on the rate, rents are going crazy. If you're a renter, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that in your beach rental properties. They're
Right.
going up and down as well. So investing in real estate is a great form of wealth building.
Mm-hmm.
It can be fun,
Yeah.
handy, and you like to do things. You can build the value with sweat equity. Going in and updating things on your own when off seasons down at the beach.
Right.
And a lot of people do that, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and I think this type of investment, I think, is the best kind. Like we're talking about in these areas like Ocean City, Maryland, on up to coastal Delaware too, just because you can do like rental, you can have produce rental income, but the main thing, just like what we were talking about, you're building appreciation over time. But I think the main thing about it too is you can create memories, with your family or friends, and actually enjoy the property too.
And
Uh,
kids always love to come back to the beach if they're getting older.
yeah.
But
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You never
and-
forget about that. I mean, I remember going to Ocean City, during the summers because I grew up in Salisbury and that was our vacation. My mom used to drive us and my sisters and cousins to Ocean City and stay up that way. And every summer for like a weekend because it was easy. We didn't have to travel, too far, but
And now with financing options available to help people do these, that was always the hindrance to getting into investment properties.
right.
It's financing. How do I come up with enough money to get it? How
Yeah.
do I qualify to carry it?
Yeah.
Before these debt service loans, you had to, basically have X number of dollars of income. You had to be able to support all the debt on your personal situation as carry the debt on the new property until it got rented before you could start to show income to use that as credit. And
Right.
now it kind of really takes away that barrier of entry. You just need good credit. You don't have to have excellent credit.
Yeah.
Depending upon the amount of money that you put down, high 600s, low 700s get you in. And it's really coming up with the assets, right? Is your barrier of entry now. How do I
Right.
come up with that?
Yeah.
If you get savings, if you got it in other properties, and you want to borrow from it to jump into this is a great way to get into it and start. I always tell people start slow.
Right.
Right? I'm a conservative guy with real
Yeah.
estate. Start slow, find one, make sure you like it. Both Rich and I are investors,
Hmm.
willing to have a conversation with you heart to heart.
Yeah.
I'm sure just like you have talked a lot of people out of it when you bring it up.
Yeah.
Here's the heartaches, and they go, "That's not for me." Well, that's
Uh-huh.
perfect, right? We don't want to put somebody in a situation where they're calling you back in 6 months, going, "I can't stand this. I need
Right.
to sell it. Now I've lost money buying, paying closing costs, selling, paying commissions.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to make the money in 6 months. This is
Right.
a long-term endeavor for you."
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's one thing I mentioned too. It's okay to start out small too, like an efficiency or even a one bedroom, because you can still do well with those. And I think it's a little easier to manage sometimes just because it's not a huge space. And
No, and
particularly
I
condos
think there's
too.
a lot of those on the beach side of the
Mhm.
coastal highway.
Yes.
Do pretty well.
So that was a good conversation all about the DSCR loan there and investment in general too, particularly here in coastal Maryland and Delaware area. Make sure you hit that like button if it's helped you out and subscribe so you don't miss any of the content that I come out with every week. And we're going to be coming out with some new videos like this on the financing side as it's an important part. So stay tuned. You're probably seeing another video popping up here that you might like. But until next time, I'll see you soon.